It's Bobby Althoff. Her new character is homeless. I'm a homeless podcast. Somebody should try that. Homeless podcast right out on the street. Um, Neil deGrasse Tyson continues his free fall. Now I'm not big on TV scientists ever. It was sort of Seth MacFarlane who brought him up through the system, through the minor leagues, I would say. And maybe he got the call from George Steinbrenner to do so. But Neil deGrasse Tyson,
Wait, wait,
he's
wait.
going to go out.
What does Seth MacFarlane have to do with this?
Seth MacFarlane got him his show on Fox.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was produced by him. So, he goes out there, he does their anti-flat earth stuff that the majority of the population can get behind. And now he's moved on to his transgender arguments. And his argument, Eric, you will see, he doesn't like to answer questions. What he likes to say is, "Well, we'll figure it out. Little boy beats up little girl, we'll figure it out. The In sports, we'll figure it out." He says, "Oh, tall people compete against short people all the time. Is that not fair? A short guy can knock out a tall guy. A short guy can jump higher than a tall guy. All these things can happen. What can't happen though is a girl dunking over a guy. What can't happen though is a
There's a
girl that
girl
choked
dunking.
is a girl punching out a tall guy. These are things that don't happen. They can't happen. Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't watch sports. He doesn't play sports. He doesn't understand sports. He even wrestled in high school, and we might not get to it in this clip because it's long. But his example was, I didn't wrestle again. I was 190 pounds. I didn't wrestle against a 120 pounder, so we figured it out. And he just claims these guys, and I forget what the podcast is called, Vladimir Constantine or whatever this guy's name is. He basically says we'll figure it out, and if you don't, like, he calls what they're saying an old worldview,
Oh, I love
gendered
it.
categories.
I love it.
He gives such terrible examples. We'll try to get as much of it as we can here.
The XXXY chromosomes
This isn't.
are
This is them showing a clip of what he said previously.
insufficient.
So are we podcasting
because
right now?
when we wake up in the morning,
What's that?
Are we about to podcast Inception? So they're reacting to him and we're reacting to them.
No, they
to
interview him.
Okay. Oh, okay.
we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice. Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care?
Yeah.
What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum? My only point.
See how he comes from a spot of you don't understand, but also the fact that nobody argues that people are legally not allowed to do this. 0 people argue that, and it's called trigonometry, this podcast.
Wait, so okay.
That's his first point, is arguing against ghosts, right? And his second point you'll see is, well, we saw that as why do you care? That's a moronic point too. And then he'll get to, we'll figure it out once they start asking him hard questions.
This is very similar to what I've seen him make this argument before talking to somebody else, so clearly he's got the script. But is it safe to say that it's the same people who have bought out Travis Kelce, the same people who have buying this guy out? But I mean, you can kind of see where these people just come out and like go so hard for the narrative that it becomes a little bit suspicious, right? Like, do we really think that this 60 or 70-year-old man just automatically he wasn't, there's no way he was saying this 30 years ago. It's absolutely impossible.
And 5 years ago.
Or 5 years ago. But another thing about this is, I mean, again, I'll have to state the obvious here. There's no way a man can feel female because he doesn't know what that feels like. Because he's like, you see the circular logic there? That's like, well, a woman is a woman. It's like, what does a woman feel like? Well, I feel like a woman. You can't. You
there
literally
is no such
can't.
thing as woman and man. It's a construct, but I feel like a construct, and I'm non-binary, even though there are Not there's more than two choices, but I'm neither of those two choices.
But how that would be like me saying I I feel like a tree. You can't. You haven't lived. There's no way. It's
Tree
literally
self.
it. Ay, ay, ay. All right, moving
That
on.
if who you decide is male and female in the street is a construct of of style.
Patreon.com/UOPod is where you can find our bonus podcast every week, especially when we're banned off YouTube. A few minutes into the podcast today, we got demonetized for the 95th show in a row. It's probably 100 and whatever episode we're on now, 120th episode in a row. You can go to patreon.com/UOPod and get a bonus podcast every week. These are basement low Canadian prices. So if you translate into US dollars, you're saving lots of money. You could help us become Joe Rogan. You could be the Raptors super fan, which is a Sikh guy that goes to every Toronto Raptors game and can somehow afford it. Or you could pay us to become an authorized person. They all come with perks. That's patreon.com/egopod. Look at us. I'm wearing a toque. You don't get that in the normal episode. We call it a toque up here, Eric, not even a beanie. We have made up words in Canada.
And trends
Not though.
and what the beauty industrial complex wants you to see, if that's how we establish gender,
Oh,
then maybe
Not.
some people want to be
It's not. You take off their clothes, they have a penis or a vagina. Like he sounds like a 13-year-old girl. The government wants boys to use blue and boys they're forced to play with trucks. Nothing is natural. That's his claim here. The scientist is saying that there is no like natural order to things. It's just everything's just all made up.
yes, but those
But trust
but
me.
those same stereotypes, the same stereotypes that he's saying are irrelevant, are the same. Is exactly what makes you think you're the opposite gender, right? So it's right. So if you're a little boy and you like to play with trucks, that doesn't mean anything. Or you want to be a fireman, or you want to be a police officer, you want to do traditionally masculine things, that doesn't mean anything. But as soon as you play with a doll, now it does mean
Exactly.
it
These
really, it's
constructs are
ridiculous.
just constructs and they don't really exist except when you want them to be the things that
Exactly.
identify you as the
Yes.
opposite sex, which
Yeah.
also doesn't exist.
Let's slice you up.
fluid within that gender identify. So they'll wear a skirt but maybe have a beard, or they'll mix and match that in whatever way
But
you
Neil,
want.
sorry,
Hold
sorry.
on. I'm not wait. I'm almost done. Why is your job?
So
Yeah,
here
hold
they
on.
just say what I'm going to skip is them just saying nobody's actually arguing that it's not your right to do so.
Right.
So first of all,
Oh
the
wait,
problem
okay.
is
So you don't, but you know such people are out there.
the conversations become an issue, is that we assign and allow certain privileges to people based on their sex. If you are female, you get to go to places that only other females are in, like changing rooms and toilets and so on. If you are female, you get to compete only with people of your sex, because females are at a disadvantage in physical competition to males in almost every sport. In other words, we carve out certain areas where your sex matters tremendously, even though we may respect your right everywhere else to believe that you are whatever you are, to dress however you are, etc. So your claim that today you woke up and put lipstick on and grew your hair out long and tweezed out your mustache and whatever, and therefore you are female, has an impact on other people in certain contexts in which that is a problem.
You
and
gave only two
increasingly,
contexts. Do you have others?
sorry, I wasn't finished. And
So here Tyson says, "Oh, sports and bathrooms aren't a big deal," and then I would play it if it wasn't so long, but he basically says, there's a school that still exists in New York that's really old that has entrances for boys and girls, and that's crazy. I don't understand why it's crazy. I'd imagine that for probably religious reasons they had no problem with it. Even if it still existed today, would it be that crazy? I don't think so. And then he says they solved a bathroom problem by having it used to be a trough, then they put urinals, and then they put dividers, as if like that means anything because there's dividers that don't do much between urinals, I guess. And this is his way of explaining how we've progressed. And I want to see if we can find the part where he calls them basically out of touch for not adhering to trans ideology, which is insane thinking popularized in the last 5 to 7 years or so. And he basically says, you guys are out of touch, and we're going to look back, as he always says, and think that this is crazy that we separated men and women in sports.
Well, can I just say too, to the point that they always want to make, well, why do you care? What does it matter to you? Right? That's such a weak argument, because now they of course would call me a crazy person, but it's very clear that once you get somebody to completely eliminate reality, they're malleable. They will believe anything. That's why it matters. Not because you want to be mean, not because you hate people or any of that. It's because this matters, because when you eliminate reality, you have complete control, because now you can create the reality around whatever it is you want. Right? So that's why it matters. So I hate the "Well, why do you even care" argument. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing's completely ridiculous. Like, just on a base level, just on a base level, it just, dude, you like you said, what, in the last 5 to 7 years, this has become a hot button issue, and it's like, dude, this shouldn't even be on the radar. This was not on the radar when I was a kid, right? Like, it's just ridiculous.
And it's like, go and bend over backwards for people with literally an average of 3 mental illnesses per person, and however many X times the suicide rate of the general population, and change everything for them and be like, who cares about the girls? Who cares about the little girls getting concussed? Who cares about the adult women losing all their opportunities? And it becomes a situation where your argument is so dumb you turn like other people into feminists essentially, like, because you have to, and it's a waste of time. You're right, it is a distraction because it's the dumbest thing, and no matter what people say to somebody like this, they just say, well, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what a woman is. I
Do you
don't
have that?
know.
Do you have that Elad clip? Do you happen to have that?
Um, no, I can get it. Let's finish this. What's the odd clip about?
It's him. I believe he's at Georgetown, and he's talking to like some gender panel, and he very calmly and collected says, I mean, he literally just hits him with the most basic question that's also hard hitting, that just destroys them completely. Um, what is a woman? And they freak out, they short circuit, because
That's the one you sent me the other day. Yeah, I got
yeah,
that.
yeah, because basically what's happening is that just unravels the entire thing, because that's you saying, that's all you're saying with that is, I haven't I haven't been brainwashed, essentially, right? Like,
Well, if they can't define this thing that they're claiming to be, but yet also doesn't exist. So gender doesn't exist, but I'm also a woman. A
correct.
woman isn't a thing, but I am one. Please define it, but I can't, but you have to call me one. It's like every single thought is just like, I don't have to define anything, so therefore I can be anything, but also the things that I'm pretending to be do not exist. It's just like the perfect
All it
recipe
means is
for
obey.
mental insanity.
It just means obey what I tell you. That's literally all it means,
Let's
right?
try
Like,
to get more out of him here.
Fine. That's perfectly noble cause there. So, about personal changing spaces, okay? Um, that's a solvable problem, of course. And we basically have accomplished that here in Manhattan,
That's
where
the
I live. Practically all bathrooms,
that's the bathroom argument.
and say, my gosh, that was really short-sighted, little more private. And now those urinals have little small but real dividers. So you're not like looking over. So there are solutions to the privacy problem, and we've all but solved that here. I can't speak for every state in the United States. definitely here in New York City.
So what he doesn't seem to understand, he also says, they have different entrances um into the same place,
Does he
into the
not
same
realize
bathroom. And
that
it's like,
outside of this I'm sorry, continue.
I was just going to say, he is completely excusing the fact that the reason why there's men and women bathrooms and you can't just have, because he brags about, like, individual stalls. They're the same place, but you have individual stalls, so it's even for everybody. It's the same bathroom, but you still get your privacy. Men and women are different, and also in a place where you're not supposed to have cameras, it alerts people, hey, there's a guy who's not a person who's not supposed to be in here, and he's obviously not supposed to be in here, therefore there's a problem, and therefore we can curtail bad things from happening by excluding big dirty men with wigs on from these spaces.
But outside of the absolute insanity of this argument, the insanity of this subject as a whole, does he genuinely not realize that this is completely tearing to shreds any credibility he might have had? And that's why I'm
That's
saying
what a lot
it's
of people say, is like, there goes his credibility.
yeah, I mean it's completely gone, which leads me to believe that he's answering to somebody else. So I don't know if it's money or power or blackmail or whatever it is, but he didn't cut this. It's so blatantly obvious that this is not his idea, that he's just not going to bat for this extreme gender ideology in 2023 because he feels so passionately about it. This obviously comes from something else, and his entire career or whatever 20, 30 years that he's been TV science man is all down the drain. And clearly it's worth it for him.
Well, yeah, you could be like, why would I believe you about something that's 30 light years away when you don't even know what a woman is?
Correct. It's the
The
Gelman
bathrooms are, it's
amnesia
not, all right.
effect.
To slice the population so that whatever the event is interestingly contested. So, for example, I wrestled in my life. I was captain of my high school wrestling team.
Dude,
It would be
get rid of this
unfair
guy.
for me at 190 of the world and force modern
There you
emergent
go.
conduct of people to fit that.
Okay, well, can we just
You guys are out of date. You guys, you don't think guys can be chicks? You losers.
Turn it up, Jordan.